Welcome to Creativity with Kim, where everyone is welcome and creativity is for everyone. Today we're going to be using the holiday special stamp set and some Glacier cardstock as well as some Wonderland pattern paper. So we're going to be using the Merry and Bright as well as the trees on there. And I've got a couple things for masking, so some sticky notes and part of an old roll of ribbon. So any kind of circle. So that piece of cardstock there is 8.5 inches by 8.5 inches. And we're going to be making a slimline card and with a pocket for a gift card holder or money. So I'm using my stylus that has an embossing stylus on one side as well as a piercing tool on the other side. And I scored it at 3.5, and then I moved the line over to the 3.5 spot again. So it's 3.5, 3.5, and 1.5. And then I'm just folding it on those score lines and using my bone folder to enforce it and putting some adhesive and just making sure it's all great. Then I'm going to put that piece right there down, and I'm just inking it with my Rosemary ink and adhering it. So you've got that little mat, and I'll put all the measurements in the comments. We're going to do this piece after. So that's the glacier, the other side of the glacier. And as you can see, money or a check or a gift card could fit in there. I'm going to ink up the edges of the Glacier cardstock as well as the pattern paper again with my Rosemary ink. And I'm just putting that on with the dot adhesive from Close to My Heart, which I love. And then I'm showing you that this is the lighter tone of the Glacier. And that's what we're going to stamp all our stuff on and create a really fun looking card. So I am going to put the trees at the bottom, and I'm going to put Merry and Bright in the middle. So the Merry and Bright we're going to emboss. So I'm just seasoning that stamp because it's a brand new one, and I am just using my anti-static pouch and putting it on there so that when I stamp and put my embossing powder on there, I don't end up with stray embossing powder everywhere. So I'm just inking it up with my Versamark, and I moved it to the center of that piece of foam. You want to make sure you have foam underneath when you're stamping, and it was easier that way to make sure that I got it centered. I could make sure I'm stamping in the middle of the foam if I had the paper centered on there. So just stamping that down. And then I like to use a coffee filter, and I'm using the gold embossing powder by Ranger. And I have all the powder on. You can see it's there. So that's what it looks like beforehand. And the nice thing with the coffee filter is it gathers it all up, and then you can put it in. And there, I've heat embossed it. Of course, this is much faster than it actually does, but you'll notice the change in the color. So now I'm getting out that tree stamp, and I'm putting it on my 2 by 6.5 block because it fits better on there. And I'm going to use my Rosemary ink again, and I'm going to stamp it down once there. And then I want to add a shadow, like trees kind of that look like they're further back. So I'm doing them in second generation. You can see the difference there. I'm just using my stamp chamois to clean up the stray ink on my foam. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. First generation, just then offset it a little bit and stamp it down directly again in second generation. And then I also decided that I wanted something in between the two sets of trees underneath my sentiment. So I grabbed a scratch piece of paper and I stamped it off once there, and then I stamped the trees down below. So you just have a very faint thing. And with the embossing powder already on there, it acts as a resist, so you can just wipe it off. So now we want to mask that sentiment area. So you could cut a circle using a thin cut or your Cricut or whatever, or just grab a sticky note or something round that you have, or a different shape if you want. And I'm going to show you the difference between the Harbour ink and the Rosemary. So we stamped in Rosemary, and you can see the Rosemary on the left-hand side and the Harbour on the right-hand side. So we're going to kind of create a night sky. So we're going to use the mini blending ink tool, and I'm using a craft mat, like the all-purpose mat underneath, and I'm just going in circles, working from off on my mat onto my paper, and I'm just darkening it up to how I want it, and then going around all the edges and adding a little bit of definition there with that Harbour ink. And then I got out my clear shimmer brush and I just added some sparkles. I just splattered it and it looks like stars. So normally I would leave that to the side to dry. I was thinking hindsight that that paper might have been nicer if I had flipped it over. It would have been different blues, but the gray looks good too. So I'm just carefully putting that down. It was a little bit crooked, so I picked it back up and pushed it down. That's the nice thing about that dot adhesive is you have a few minutes still to play. So isn't that pretty? You can see that shimmer and those stars. It's a little wet, so I did end up smearing it, and you might see that in some of the still shots. But it kind of looks like Northern Lights in my still shots, which you'll find at the end of this video. So now we're going to work on that inside piece, and I had been debating what I wanted to do. So I've decided that I'm going to stamp that all is calm, all is bright in the middle, and I'm going to do that in the Harbour ink. That way it's a little bit different. I debated using the embossing powder again, and then I just decided that I didn't want to do the embossing. So I stamped that in the Harbour, and then I'm going to add the trees in Rosemary and do the same thing I did before, but I'm not putting the full tree. I'm just making them shorter trees. So first generation and then second generation, and then I wanted to do some second generations underneath the sentiment, and so I did it twice just to offset it and give it a little bit of dimension there. And then I am just adding some Harbour ink around the edges, so just inking the edges of that piece to help it stand out a little bit. And then we're just gonna put that piece right there inside our card. So I think that little strip turned out really cool. I am really liking it. So again, I'll put all the measurements in the description box, and I'm splattering a little bit of the clear shimmer on there as well. Ended up with more, I think, on my table than on the card. But I think it turned out really well, and you can use it for a Christmas gift or whatever. This is a great way that you can create something fun. So I hope this inspires you to try something different, and let me know what you think of this. So you can find all the supplies in the description, and have fun creating. I just love the look of this, and I will definitely be trying this again. So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Bye.